Well, good afternoon, guys, and today I have another species profile, this time on my favorite wildflower in the Wasatch Mountains. This is Aquilegia coerulea, also known as the Colorado Columbine. Now, Aquilegias, which as I said are also known as columbines, are found over a fairly widespread area. They can be found all throughout North America and all throughout Eurasia. They have, for the most part, a very holarctic distribution. This species in particular is found, as you might guess, in the Rocky Mountain states, so quite widely in Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, Wyoming, maybe not so much northern Montana and northern Idaho, and definitely not in California, Oregon, or Washington. But within this range, it is found from about 6,000 to maybe up to 10,000 feet in elevation typically, so reaching a peak at about 8,000 feet. This is its typical habitat. Well, I should say, but it does grow in meadows. You normally find it growing in shadier sites like in conifer forests and an aspen forest. But this is fairly high up for its range, so maybe that's why it's doing so well out in the open. It's hard to say for sure. Now, Aquilegia is a member of the family Ranunculaceae, which is one of the most primitive of Eudicot families, with fossils dating back to the early Cretaceous, but not necessarily of the genus Aquilegia, of course. Now, one of the primitive features of the family Ranunculaceae is that species within it tend to have floral parts in undefined layers. While members of the genus Aquilegia always have 5 sepals and 5 petals barring mutations, the stamens do follow this pattern and they occur in a rather undefined mass, as you can see here. If you were to compare that to members of the rose family, for instance, which often have many stamens, you would notice that they occur in distinct layers of 5, which is not the case with this species. Now, the major distinguishing feature of the genus Aquilegia is the presence of nectar spurs extending back from the petals, which you can see here. It's got 5 nectar spurs, 1 for each petal, and they exist to hold nectar a ways away from the reach of most species. So bees are not going to pollinate this one, but hummingbirds, hawk moths, and butterflies with their longer bills or proboscises just might be able to. Now, if you're wondering why they would do this, like why would they reduce the number of pollinators that could visit them, I think it mostly has to do with niche partitioning. It allows it to not compete with so many species if it's pollinated specifically by different animals. And that can be really important in the long run and increase biodiversity, and it's overall a good thing. And here are what its leaves look like. They are compound with leaflets that are palmately lobed. It's very interesting looking, I think. It's very ranunculaceous, if you know what I'm talking about. Now, within the family Ranunculaceae, the genus Aquilegia is a member of the subfamily Phalictroideae, which among some other genera such as Isopyrum and ones that I believe are split off of Aquilegia, like Para-Aquilegia and Semi-Aquilegia, the most notable genus, at least around here, of that subfamily is, of course, Phalictrum, the namesake. So you have a specimen right here. This is Phalictrum fendleri, and though it's not the topic of the video, I'll just give you a look at it to see what it looks like really quick. Very different from Aquilegia, and the flowers are definitely quite different. Now, one might think that with its nectar spurs, it is closely related to the genus Delphinium, but that's a bit of a red herring, because although Delphinium does have 1 nectar spur, it occurs on the sepals, while the nectar spurs of Aquilegia occur on the petals. So there's really not that much of a close relationship as one would think. In fact, Delphinium is more closely related to the genus Aconitum, the monkszoods, which both have sort of a bilateral symmetry, which helps to distinguish them from the rest of the family Ranunculaceae. Really interesting. It looks like such a cool flower to me. I just love them so much. And I believe they're actually probably the largest single flower you can find in the Wasatch. Some ones you might think are larger, like the Helianfellows or stuff like that, are actually a composite of multiple flowers. So if any of you guys can think of what's a larger singular flower you can find in the Wasatch Mountains, let me know, because I'm not sure there are any contenders. Now, some of the other Aquilegia species you can find around here include Aquilegia flavescens, which is more of a cream yellow color, and you find it growing in riparian areas at the same elevations as this one, as well as Aquilegia formosa, which grows in the Great Basin portion of Utah, westward to California, Oregon, and Washington. That one has red flowers. And further south you can find Aquilegia scopulorum, which that one's probably the most interesting. It grows in rather rocky exposed areas, at least in my experience. I saw quite a lot at Bryce Canyon when I was down there recently, though I wasn't able to get into my videos, unfortunately. If you're wondering about foraging this plant, I would say don't. As a member of Ranunculaceae, it is assuredly toxic, even if it's only mildly so, and it isn't going to be really good for any eating. And it's a pretty risky family to use, so I would not endorse using it for any foraging purposes. I mean, I'm not interested in foraging anyways, but I really am advising you guys to keep safe in this case. So thanks for watching and see you next time.